Let me add sort of a tangent or an aside on that as well.
You're not allowed
I
to do that.
I
Only I'm allowed to do those two.
I also wonder who's going to be coaching them next year. You seem to have a lot more. You seem to have a lot more faith in everybody being retained as coaches from 2024 or
Well,
2025 to
let me just say this.
2026.
I have It has nothing to do with the coaches themselves. Almost nothing.
Right.
I just know this organization, and so do you.
Yeah.
And if they can avoid making changes, they will avoid making changes, right? I mean, now maybe they've gotten to a point, which I think you're going to say, that things have gotten so bad and they're going to miss the last 4 to 5 years. And like we just talked about, I don't know that next year's going to be a whole lot brighter, where you almost can't avoid making changes because if you don't make some level of substantial changes, and that's subjective, obviously, but some level of substantial changes, well, then the heat starts to rise, right? I
Right.
mean, if you don't sort of put barriers in place before that heat gets to the front office, then it gets to the front office. And the way
Yeah.
to put those barriers in place, like last year, you fire the hitting coach or you let your longtime GM leave or things like that. I don't think it's impossible that those level of things will happen. A couple of coaches, a front office person or whatever. But we've seen they've stuck with not only this regime, but all regimes under the Pohlads. They've stuck with front offices and coaches and managers long, long, long past the point people were starting to discuss, whether they should, right?
Yeah, I mean that's a fair point in terms of the history of it.
That's what
I
I'm
would I
going
would
off.
suggest I would suggest that the heat is going to rise whether or not you make a change. You know, if you do make a change, well, yeah, then the heat is on you because if the new guy doesn't come in and turn things around, you've got a real problem, right? And if you don't make a change, everybody's going to say, "Why the hell have they can't even make a change to that? That's the obvious change to make, right?" So either way, I think the heat rises. But that said, you know, the next logical step that would happen at this point, frankly, I'm surprised it wouldn't have already happened, was the manager is fired. And usually, when the manager is fired, the whole coaching staff is somewhat, well,
Right.
not all the time, but the whole coaching staff is in
Depends
jeopardy.
depends if one of them is asked to replace the manager.
Well, that's true
If one
too.
of them is asked to replace the manager, I'm not talking about this coaching staff. I'm just talking
Right.
about baseball
Right.
history.
In general, right. That's
If a
right.
manager gets fired and the hitting coach or the bullpen coach or the bench coach or fill in the blank is the one chosen to replace them,
Then
they
the
will
group sticks
often
around, right.
keep some of the crew and bring in some of their own guys. Whereas if the manager's fired and the replacement comes during a search or comes from outside, then yeah, typically you will, reassign some
That
people.
outside person often wants to
Right.
bring in some of their own people
Right.
as well. You know, they've got some people in mind for so and
So
so.
I don't disagree with what you're saying that most teams in this situation would have fired people by now. I mean, we had this identical conversation basically this time last year and for
You're right.
throughout
You're
this
right.
first several months
You're
of the
right.
offseason. At that point, you collapse like that in year whatever it was, 7 of this regime and year 5 under
Yeah.
Baldelli. And it's not like they've just lost, but but I think the ownership situation and the payroll slashing sort of shielded them from that in a lot of ways. But
And the success probably just 1 year prior also
right,
probably shielded
for
them to
sure.
some extent, right?
But then you repeat that and you're going to lose 95 games or something this year and you sold off at the deadline. I completely agree with you that if you just remove the context, you remove the names and the faces and the owners and everything, and you just said, here's a baseball team that's had the same front office since 2017 and the same manager since 2019, and they're about to miss the playoffs for the fourth time in 5 years, including back-to-back collapses, including this season a fire sale and what will probably be a 95 loss season. And you toss in the fact that, as we just kind of talked about with the bullpen, especially, it doesn't look a whole lot brighter for 2026
Right. They're
necessarily.
trending in the wrong direction in all phases, right?
I have you just show me kind of flashcards with those information, and you don't tell me the team. I say, yeah, how'd they all make it this far,
Right.
basically?
Yeah, right.
But I just wonder, the Polads over the course of 40 years have not been. It's often positioned as loyalty, which if you're
Sure.
feeling complimentary, it's loyalty. It certainly is. But they stay with. I mean, look, they stood by Ron Gardenhire through 590 lost seasons. Like they
Right.
stood by Terry Ryan through a decade, basically of the whole thing collapsing. So I also just wonder, like from their point of view, given the current ownership situation, do they care to make any changes? Do they care to, or do they just figure next year's going to be a mess anyway? We can fire them after that. Like, I just wonder how active the Pohlads want to be at all on any front of this organization. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Right, yeah.
where it's like they're just kind of like lame duck owners at this
Well,
point, but not really.
I mean, there is, if you make a move, you open yourself up for yet more criticism, which as opposed
Right.
to, if you don't make a move, you are a little more insulated
Well,
towards that
I don't think they
criticism.
care about. I don't think the
Right.
criticism gets to them. From what I've talked to people who know them and have talked to them and stuff, like I'm sure they're aware that people aren't real happy with them, but it's not like their day-to-day lives are affected, and that's fine. I'm not suggesting it should be, but I don't think they do this out of wanting to avoid criticism because they would have just sold the team if they were that worried about the crit. Like,
Right.
just be done with, go
Fair.
be rich away from baseball. It's fine. I think it's more, who cares? Team's bad, payroll's bad. We can't sell the thing. We'll hang on to it. Next year's probably going to be bad anyway. So why do we want to bring in new front office, new manager, new coaches? Because they're just going to have a bad season. If we then try to sell it again, it's like, okay, we paid 2 guys this much. Like, we redid the infrastructure. Like, I just wonder if they're just coasting along here, basically.
I just thought of this. I wonder if changes are made. I wonder how much of the narrative around it is, hey, the 2 new minority owners kind of came in and helped drive some of the changes.
They haven't even been named yet.
No. And welcome to the end of this video. There's lots more. For another, just click on one of these boxes.
Or click on this circle in the middle to subscribe to all of our Twins Talk.
Thank you.
Gleeman